Namaste, class 9 student. I am your teacher here. I am your teacher Krishnidal from NPABSAN Kaski. So I am your science teacher, and from last class we are being reading metals, chapter number 12. So let's go and see what you have read in earlier classes, how much knowledge you have gained over from previous classes, and we will be reading few new things in today's class. Okay, so in last class we have read about the substances. Substances are classified into pure and impure. So pure are elements and compound, and elements are those things, those pure substances which neither can be splitted nor can be made from other substances. Similarly, like the cell, like cell is the structural and functional unit of life, element is the basic unit of the substances. So in over the world we have 118 elements so far. Among them 92 are natural and 26 are synthesized in lab. That means they are prepared from our scientists. So among 118 elements also, the elements are classified into three different categories. They are metal, they are non-metal, and they are metalloids. So after this we have focused on the importance of metals in our daily life, in living life, in the existing world. So we get the knowledge that without the presence of metals, neither a plant nor a animal can grow and sustain in this earth, because metals are present in human body as well as present in plant body. In human body, in blood, it is present in the form of hemoglobin, and in plant, in chlorophyll, it is present. So chlorophyll is made up of magnesium. So without metal a plant doesn't exist, and without metals an animal cannot exist or live. Also there are other some metal also which are essential for our growth and development too. So without metals we cannot imagine a living planet, and we get a conclusion for the definition of metals that the electropositive elements which are good conductor of heat and electricity are metals. The example of metals are gold, silver, copper, aluminum and iron. After that we read about the properties of metal and non-metal. Metals are good conductor of electricity, metals are good conductor of heat. Metals are malleable in nature, metals are ductile in nature, metals are positioned at extreme left in the modern periodic table. Metals are electropositive in nature, that means they have tendency to lose the electron during chemical reaction. And furthermore, metals are shiny in nature. Similarly, we have listed some properties of non-metals. Non-metals are bad conductor of heat. Non-metals are bad conductor of electricity except carbon. Carbon is only non-metal which can transfer electricity from its one point to another. And other properties of non-metal are non-malleable, non-metal are non-ductile, non-metal are positioned at extreme right in the modern periodic table. And another property of non-metal is it is electronegative in nature. Electronegative in nature means the non-metals have tendency to gain the electrons, gaining the negative part of it. That is, gaining the negative has made non-metals more negative. So during chemical reaction, non-metal always gains the electron and becomes electronegative in nature. And another part is non-metal is non-shiny or dull in the physical appearance. Till here we have read in the last class. So now we are going to read about the metalloids, definition of metalloids and its properties. Let's see the next slide. So metalloids, elements that show both property of metals and non-metals are called metalloids. Look here, it is a very interesting thing. Metalloids are elements which sometimes show property of metal and sometimes show property of non-metal. So they show such confusing property here. So directly by seeing a single property, we cannot distinguish between metal, non-metal and metalloids. They are found between metal and non-metals in modern periodic table. That means, for your clearness, non-metals are positioned between metal and, that means they are not in right also and they are not in left. So they are found or they are positioned in between the position of metals and non-metal both. They are kept at center of the modern periodic table. They are poor conductor at low temperature and good conductor at high temperature. Look this thing. So in case of conductivity of heat also, they show two type of characters. Sometimes they are good conductor and sometimes they are bad conductor. When they become bad conductor, they show the property of metals, and when they show the property of bad conductor, they show the property of non-metals. When they behave as good conductor, they behave like metals. When they become bad conductor, they behave like non-metals. So they have a confusing character among metal and non-metals. Look here, they are poor conductor at low temperature. In cold condition or very at low temperature, they become non-metal, they become insulator, they behave like a non-metal. And in the good conductor at a high temperature, that means when the temperature is increasing slowly, now they are transferring from metal to non-metal. So we cannot say this is metal after it is conducting electricity or heat. Another is metallic luster. Metals have good luster. That means metalloids are seen as metals in case of their physical appearance. They look shiny. So after seeing shiny, we cannot say this is metal because it may be metalloid, because metalloid also possess the same property of lusterness as like of metal here can form alloys. The next point is can form alloys. That means metalloids also can form alloys. By mixing, alloys is the mixture of two or more than two metals. So even in case of metalloids also, we can fuse between two or more metalloids and form a alloy. So like metal, it also behaves or it also acts that it can also make alloys. And another property of metalloid is non-malleable and non-ductile. In this case, now it is behaving like non-metal. That means it is not malleable, it cannot be beaten into thin sheets. And in case of ductileness, in case of making wires, metalloids cannot be made wires. This is the property of metalloids. Let's summarize the definition and properties of metalloids. Elements that show both property of metal and non-metal are called metalloids. That means metalloids have tendency to show both the property. Sometimes they show the property of metal and sometimes they show property of non-metals too. And in the position, in case of position in modern periodic table, they lie in between metals and non-metals. The properties are, they are poor conductor at low temperature and good conductor at high temperature. That means at lower temperature they behave as non-metal and at high temperature they behave as metal. They have a good metallic luster. That means they look shiny in nature. They can even form alloys like the metals, but like non-metals, it is non-malleable and non-ductile. And another point which is not even mentioned here, I would like to say, it is sometimes electropositive and sometimes it behaves as a electronegative. That means during chemical reaction, metalloids sometimes loses the electron while sometimes metalloids gains the electron. I think now you are cleared with the definition and properties of metal, non-metal and metalloids. Let's go to the new topic over here, role of metals for organisms. That means for living organism, what is the role of metals? What role does metal plays in our daily life, in animals daily life? We will be reading over here, and even the role of specified metals we will be reading about more and more roles. So let's read some definition. Those mineral elements which are required relatively in a large quantity are called major mineral elements. So we take minerals daily from the food we eat. We get minerals from the food which we eat. So while consuming the food, our body needs different type of minerals. Some minerals should be taken in more amount. That means our body needs more amount of some minerals, while our body needs few amount of some minerals. So if the minerals are used or required in a large quantity for our body, then that type of mineral are called major mineral elements. Are you clear with that? I will again recall it, our body needs different type of minerals daily. Some minerals it needs in a large quantity, while some minerals our body needs in a small quantity. So if our body requires in a large quantity, then that mineral is called major mineral element. Similarly, if our body requires relatively smaller amount of minerals, then that mineral are called minor mineral element. They are also called trace elements. So let's go to definition according to I think you are clear with that. Let's go definition along with the book. Those mineral elements which are required relatively in a large quantity are called major mineral elements. The example measurement, that means these things our body needs more and more. So the example of this type of elements are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, calcium, sodium and many more. So from where we get this type of elements, we get these all mineral elements from our food we eat. Similarly, let's go to next definition. Those mineral elements which are required relatively in a small quantity for our body are called minor minerals. That means we get these minerals from the food, but our body needs fewer or lesser amount than the previous one. So this type of elements are called minor mineral element, and these minor mineral elements are also called trace element. The example of trace element are iron, copper, manganese, molybdenum, zinc, iodine, etc. many more. So let's recall this thing. Our body needs different type of minerals in the daily basis. Those minerals which our body needs in abundant or large quantity are called major mineral elements, and the example of major mineral element are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. And those minerals which our body needs in relatively smaller amount are called minor mineral elements, and these minor mineral elements are also called trace elements. The example of this trace element are iron, copper, manganese, molybdenum, zinc, etc. So we have to know this definition and example. And now in the next slide we will be reading the role of certain elements in our body. Now, role of zinc. Have you heard this word zinc? Surely you have heard this word zinc earlier also. It is a type of mineral element which is a trace element our body needs in a less amount, but it has very important role in our body. So what are its role? We will be reading one by one. Number one, growth of a cells. Our body or any human body is made up of cells, and growth of cells is important for the growth of the body. So here zinc plays a vital role or very important role in the growth of cells in our body. As long as we consume zinc, our cell continues to be growing, and when our cell continues to be growing, our body will be growing. So physical need, zinc is very important. So next point is development of bones. Our body is made up of muscles and bones. So growth of both muscles as well as bone is necessary for the development of our physical. So zinc plays a vital role in the development of bones. Our bones get developed if we consume the fixed or substantial amount of zinc daily wise. Even it is a trace element, it has a very major roles. The next role of zinc is increase immune system, that is immunity. So if we are consuming zinc day by day, our immunity system is boosting day by day. We will not be attacked by minor diseases easily. So for the increment of our immune system, we should have zinc in our food or in our nutrient that we consume on daily basis. The next role is increases fertility of men. You know what is fertility? The capacity of being parent is called fertility. So in the case of men or boy, zinc is important for his fertility. If a man has lack of fertility, he may not become father in the future. So for this thing also, for a system, for a generation also, a man should consume zinc so that he protects his fertility. The next role is regulates the menstrual cycle of girls or women. Menstruation is a normal thing. Menstruation is a natural thing for a girl, and it is a first stage of girl to be a youth. So and it is also a condition, it is also a sign that a girl or woman is ready to have a children, so in future also. So that's why, so for menstrual cycle, zinc is very important. We have faced or we have heard lot of problems related to menstruation in girls. Some girls have irregular menstruation or pain during the menstruation. So to reduce this sort of problems, to reduce the menstrual cycle, to have regular menstruation interval of 28 days, the girl must intake zinc in her food. Treatment of various disease, another role of zinc. So for the treatment of different sort of disease also, zinc is also used. And another thing is here, deficiency causes dwarfism, night blindness, diarrhea, etc. So if a person lacks zinc in his or her body, that may cause dwarfism. That means डल्ले हुने, height नबढ्ने. And another is night blindness, रातिमा नदेख्ने, रतन्दो भन्छ. And another is diarrhea, and many more. There are many more in your book also. So you have to read the role of the zinc. Now let's go to the next role of sodium and potassium. Just now we have read about zinc, and now we are going to read the role of potassium and sodium. So zinc was a trace element, trace mineral element. even it was a trace mineral element, it has a very high role. Now here we are going to read the role of sodium, potassium. These are major mineral elements and they have also some major functions in our body. Helps in proper, the role is listed in the 4 points over here. Helps in proper functioning of nerves and muscles. So for proper functioning, so that our muscle is working properly, our nerves is, we are thinking properly, then we should have a regular intake and a balanced intake of sodium and potassium. Another role of sodium and potassium is that it regulates the water and pH balance in blood. It regulates the water balance, water level in the blood, and pH balance means acid and base balance. It has to neutralize the condition of blood in our body. And another role is it maintains blood pressure and heart functioning. The sodium and potassium helps to maintain the blood pressure and heart function. That means it controls the heartbeat rate. And another role is increases metabolism of glucose. That means we will be intaking glucose in our nutrients. So if there is excess amount of glucose, we may suffer from the disease called diabetes. So in order to control this sort of problem, sodium potassium play a vital role in order to control the glucose level in our body. So for today I am summing the class. Today we have read about the definition and properties of metalloids, role of metals for organism, major mineral elements, minor mineral elements, role of zinc and role of sodium and potassium. We will be reading other things in the further classes. Thank you.